Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1743 of our daily content grind. So, I was in my local Walmart the other day and I spotted whatever this is. The kind of product that you don't even see come up on Transformers news sightings because it's such a nothing. They're just little rubber figures of popular Transformer characters. And by that I mean of 3 Transformer characters, Optimus, Bumblebee, and Megatron. That's literally, look at how deep stacked that box is. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all the way to the back, and then 4 across. So, okay, 24. And then this is the second layer. There's another layer below that. So 48 per box, 2 boxes. Okay, so we're talking 96 of these things. They were all put out at the same time. There's only 3 characters. And these run for about $1.40. Now, that in and of itself is whatever. Hasbro puts out nothing product all the time, but it seems incredibly cheap. Like, incredibly cheap product just for the sake of putting product on a shelf. I mean, it amounts to nothing. It does nothing. I don't even know who this is made for. You know, like anyone who won just like a little mini figurine like this that does nothing probably has like one of the Jada Toys diecast sets by now. But this is just weird. And it just continues this trend that Hasbro has been on the last few years. You will notice that beside them, you have both the Mash'ems, little squeeze ball things that they're also sold now, and then the Smash Change Bumblebee to the right, all of which kind of look the same. Red logo, white boxes, and all of the product relatively cheap, at least visually. It looks cheap. The problem here, and what we're talking about today, is just how homogenized the Transformer brand seems to be these days, and how open Hasbro is to just having cheap-looking product representing their brand, whether that's in presentation or the actual product itself. You know, the stores are loaded with things like this, you know, and I don't mind the Swapticons as just yet another quick little weird gimmicky figure made for the sake of keeping trademarks alive and active. But the toys themselves are all over the place, and frankly, I never see them sell. Like, it seems like they always have the same stacks every single time I go. And if I see brand new ones, it's only because they dumped everything else out into clearance, or sold them off to one of the clearance stores like Ross. I don't ever see anyone talk about these. Like, even things like bot shots and bot bots, like, they kind of serve a similar purpose, just have Transformer product on the shelf, but I still see people defending those and talking about those from time to time. I don't know anyone who really, like, makes a big deal out of Swapticons, even as they do weird things. You know, they did a backstop of all things, and, like, even seeing it in store multiple times now, I go, even me, the one guy who ever paid any attention to backstop, is like, no. I don't care. I don't care. And the big issue for me here is so much of it looks same-ish. Like, look at the layout of this packaging. I mean, it's the white package, red logo, and yeah, the Swapticon logo is there, and then you have like the instructions on the left, which you're supposed to just glean from a few icons. Now, this kind of packaging originates in the Authentics line. This is the first place I can remember seeing this like red on white style packaging, the Authentics logo, and a much more simple layout. But even this is actually not bad looking. You know, this, you know, considering this is super cheap product, this ain't too bad. But then we get into the modern styling for Authentics. Now it's rough, and they've been doing packaging like this for a few years now, and this, again, it looks familiar to the Swapticons, right? You got the basic how-to info on the left. You've got the logos down at the bottom. It's the same essential layout. It in itself would be fine. I will say I do think it does look kind of cheap with just like the flat white packaging. There's a very small effort to stylize or design it, but generally this is just what they go for anytime they release any kind of generic, doesn't belong to anything kind of product. You'll even recognize the same blue corner that is on those tiny little figures. This is a very, very cheap product, granted, so the fact that it looks cheap and it's laid out in a very cheap way is not surprising. But now we've got more and more product creeping in that shares this design style and shares this packaging. Now, this is a prime changer Megatron. It's a brand new mold that just came out, I believe, this year or late last year. I can't remember how long this has been around at this point. But it is fairly new. And despite that, it is in this presentation that does make it feel cheap. Is it a little bit cheaper than your standard deluxe? Yes. But it's a fully fledged Transformer. Like, you can buy it, pose it, and have fun with it. It's not a bad figure, honestly. It's just your expectation goes down because you are seeing it in the same packaging that you expect to see, like, the cheapest and the worst Transformers they sell. And that's where your brand perception is starting to get really, really bad. When even good product is being put in packaging that usually signals to us fans, and at this point, probably even kids, this is very low rent product that you really should not waste your money on. And it's really unfair to the toy. It's unfair to the people who designed this particular toy, and it's very uninformative and very unintuitive for us fans. And the problem is progressing. So this is whatever. Like, the generic stuff has always had this generic feel to its packaging for years now. This is nothing new to us. But how many of you actually paid attention and realized that these toys have the exact same packaging style as the main toys, the real Transformers? I mean, yeah, it's black packaging, and the art definitely looks more detailed. It's actually, representing the character rather than being just, the generic evergreen design. But look at it. It's laid out exactly the same way. The information is on the left. The character art is up in the upper right corner. Their vehicle mode art is below them. Transformer logo down at the bottom. Same layout. They've done a little bit more of a stylizing to the window shape, but that's a pretty minor point. It's really only stylized to fit in the information and the artwork, which it's still kind of dull looking. And it gets worse for me because it's exactly the same. You're not looking at two different toy lines here. You're looking at, you're not looking at one toy line here. Even I'm getting confused thinking about this too hard. You're looking at two completely different toy lines with two completely different design philosophies and goals. But you wouldn't know that from a first glance. The only difference between these two is essentially a color stripe underneath the Transformer logo. And that's it. We are at this point where Transformers is being so generic with all of its presentation that all the boxes are designed to look exactly the same. And that is to a massive detriment because it makes everything kind of feel sameish. And, unfortunately, it's all kind of following in the trend of their cheaper toy lines. This is one of the reasons why I kind of question if Studio Series even has a point to existing anymore, because it seems like they just present it the same way. Though I will give it this credit. When you see this is them tricking retailers, because retailers really like Studio Series, but not Generations as much. So they made Generations packaging look like Studio Series to kind of throw people off and make it feel like the same toy line. It's a weird marketing thing, but it does not help the fact that all the product looks identical on the store shelves now. And again, this packaging that we have been trained to acknowledge is for super cheap product is now the packaging for your main cartoon. Granted, Cyberworld is a very low budget cartoon made to be a micro series over on YouTube. And I understand that. And it is something of a last minute show thrown together because of the cancellation of Earthspark. I understand that as well. But it's still about the perception. It's about taking absolutely no effort to actually making the product look different or look more appealing than previous product. It all just kind of blends together into this mush of just, oh, I guess that's a transformer. And it does it no favors whatsoever. If anything, everything just kind of looking the same means everything kind of feels the same. And it's not what you want. Like, you want this stuff to stand out. You want it to be eye-catching. You want this to actually look cool. It's one of the things that I genuinely think hurt Transformers 1. The perception of the line was that it was really cheap. So, yeah, it just felt like the whole thing was low budget. The perception was bad, and I feel like the perception here is bad too. And I started to kind of look at this and go, this does feel a little bit familiar. And I feel like it's because Hasbro just has this obsession with black box figures at this point. I don't know if like Marvel Legends and Star Wars just kind of tainted their idea of what packaging should be and what it should do, but we've gone from stylized, fun packaging that made it feel like the product inside is high quality to stuff that's just information on a generic black box with a generic window that doesn't have any kind of soul, doesn't have any kind of life of its own. It's just a product in a boring box. And that's just down the line, you know? You'd see this. I see the exact same color stripe for the logo underneath the character that I see on Transformer packaging these days. And if I want to really see this again, all I have to do is go to Marvel Legends because they have a lot of similar design elements too. I will say they at least put a little bit more personality into it. You see the comic book printing around the packaging. But even then, like, for a while, Marvel Legends packaging did kind of have that kind of same feel to it. And even then, I call this efficient packaging, but it certainly doesn't inspire any kind of interest. It doesn't pop. Like, it doesn't pop on a store shelf. It doesn't scream, this is a cool toy. It's a black box with just designed to put information on it. It's not what we used to have, and it's just weird. They do the same thing with G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe, at the very least, has a little bit more personality to it with the texturing to the box. I don't mind this nearly as much. And, oh, hey, at least it's a little bit different, right? It's a little bit different. I will accept that. I am at such a low point with Hasbro's presentation of just toys in generic square black boxes with square generic windows. It is repetitive, and it just feels, again, like the whole toy line like the entirety of Hasbro presentation in general for its collector lines has just been homogenized down into this generic malaise. And it's hard to be excited anymore. Like looking around the corner at the store shelves, like you're looking for that package, and it's disappointing because like the thrill is gone because it all just kind of looks the same. You have to get up close and sort through to figure out if anything new is there sometimes. It takes the joy out of it. It takes the joy out of the hunt and finding things for yourself. When I go into the toy shelves these days, if I go into a toy section, the things that jump out at me are things like the Armor Source line. The packaging has way more personality. Like, there's interesting shape to it. There's metallic print to it. The layout is informative, but it actually doesn't feel like it's being put out there just to inform. Like, it feels like it's just part of the presentation, and it presents really well. It's fun looking, it's interesting. It catches my eye immediately as soon as I see it. Something about that color pattern that it creates it hits better, you know? And they're doing the thing that Transformers and like some of the other toy lines like Black Series and all that used to do, where instead of these just generic square shapes, they have angles to them so you can see all the figures like lined up on a peg without having to flip through them. And that was cool. Like I really like this toy line just as like a throwback to what we used to have. You know, it's very Cybertron in its packaging. But then again, it's just Transformers in general. And it's not even like the packaging itself. Remember, my issue with those tiny little figures that started this video was the fact that it's just super cheap looking product made by Hasbro, not like a subsidiary, not like a like side company that just want to do some weird little collectible thing like the Mashems. No, it's Hasbro themselves putting out something that is unapologetically cheap crap just for the sake of putting out more product for a brand that is already inundated with product. And they don't seem to have any issue with their toys looking super cheap, especially in the face of how high the prices of it are now. We had this problem with Transformers 1, where half of the toys in the toy line that they put out were repaints from previous toy lines. And half the characters didn't look like they did in the movie. You know, you got a Megatron here, looks nothing like D16. You got a Starscream that looks nothing like Starscream in the movie. They didn't care. You know, it's just product for the sake of product. It's cheaping out as much as possible to maximize as much profit as they can. And they don't care how bad it makes them look. I said in this video once already, I will say it again. I genuinely feel like the overall presentation of Transformers 1 at the toy shelf hurt your expectations for the movie. Because why are you going to assume the movie is good when the product looks so freaking lame and cheap? And again, this is just what the toy aisles look like now. You know, the great stuff is mashed in with all this stuff that is very low price and low budget. I love my blockies, don't get me wrong. I still buy them myself. Like, here's Scorponok from the new Wave 10. I love this little guy. But nowadays, it's not even like a side cap like it used to be when blockies first came to Walmart. No, they just kind of dump them in with a regular Transformer section now. And again, it's more cheap product just taking up space in that section. And it just feels like they don't care how bad it looks. It's starting to look like a dollar toy section. It looks starting to look like like the toy aisle in like Five Below. Like it's not a good visual. It's not a good feeling. I miss when it felt special. I miss when a movie came out and the packaging looked incredibly interesting. I miss those weird shapes that we got to those boxes, you know, that round boxes we had in '07, the weird chunk out of the corner that was taken out for no reason. But you know what? The boxes looked fun and interesting. You know, it looked like they had personality. It looked like they were, you know, fun to pick up. And that's the perception you want from these kind of things. I miss classics. You know, I miss this like quasi G1 packaging where it feels like it took a little bit of G1, a little bit of G2. It felt like a modern version of old school Transformers packaging. And then you throw in weird nuance things like, you know, the little Velcro flap that you could flip up to show the robot mode. This was fun. This was interesting. It's dynamic. It makes it look like you were really trying to make the best thing you possibly could. I really miss when an animated series, when a toy line had its own personality on the shelf. When they went out of their way to make sure the packaging informed you that this toy line was as different from their others as possible, instead of just lumping it all into the same pile. I miss when I could tell the difference from a distance what toys were on the shelf. I miss I miss when it felt like they cared. Because this feels like nobody cares. And I don't like that feeling. So that's me venting for the day. Transformers has a presentation problem. All of Hasbro seems to have a presentation problem. They need to get away from this black box, generic shape thing and actually do something that seems interesting, you know? Because if it doesn't seem interesting on a shelf, you're not going to talk anyone into buying it. So those are the thoughts for the day. Just something that bothered me the last time I was in a toy aisle. And of course, I can rant for 20 minutes about it. But I will leave it at that. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.